Good morning and happy Lurzday Thursday to you all. Welcome to the next rendition of the Lurzday Thursday podcast. Apologies for not being here last week. I was at a wedding. So in our highlights and salutations section here to open the show, shout out and salutation to my new brother-in-law, Brandon, and my sister-in-law, Sophia. I was at their wedding in Austin, Texas. And when you're at a wedding, chasing your 6 and 3-year-old daughters around, trying to keep them sane while your wife is in the wedding party. Yeah, that was a thing. That was hard. But I did great. They were flower girls, and they looked beautiful, and they're in the forever memories. I know that that's going to be a forever memory, at least for my 6-year-old daughter. So, highlights of my week were traveling to Austin, Texas to be with my family and to celebrate Sophia and Brandon's marriage. So, happy marriage, Sophia and Brandon. If you ever watch this show, you'll hopefully appreciate that shout out. So, this is the Lurzday Thursday podcast. My name is Rudolph Lurz. I am an educator, and I try to bring interesting notes and positive notes to your week. And by we, I mean the royal we, because it's just me. The show is aired every Thursday, unedited. It is what it is because I do not have the technical capacity to edit the footage. It is performed live in one take, so you know it's real. And you know it's extra real because I do not have advertisers on this program as of yet. If you would like to advertise and partner up with the Lurzday Thursday podcast, please like and comment. Get in touch. I'd love to have you. But as of now, if you hear me give a shout out to any company or organization, you'll know that that is the just pure, untainted opinion of this singular podcaster. So that's what's up this week. So if you have any questions, comments, or snide remarks, please leave them below in the comments section. New year. Well on their way now. Still can't believe it's 2026, but we are moving forward. The next segment of this podcast, on my handy dandy cheat sheet here I got in front of me, we have dad jokes. As a dad, I love telling cringeworthy jokes, and I like to start off my classes with some dad jokes, and hence, as my students have to bear that cringe, horrible joke every single day, I think that my listeners can enjoy them once a week. So, dad jokes of the day. How much does a rainbow weigh? How much does a rainbow weigh? Oh, no one knows exactly, but it's pretty light. Okay. How about one more? You've really got to hand it to short people. You've got to hand it to short people. Oh no, seriously, you do, because they can't reach it. I love that one, especially because my wife is 5'2". She claims 5'3", but I think she's 5'2". Oh man, that's a good one. All right, that brings us to the next segment of the show, which is the quote of the day. And in honor of Martin Luther King Jr., this is one that comes from MLK. As we just celebrated Martin Luther King Day this past weekend on Monday. So this quote comes from him, and it's long, so I got to read it directly to make sure I don't mess it up. And I find it's very fitting, both for this week's episode of the Lurzday Thursday podcast, along with my take on where society is in general. When we look at modern man, we have to face the fact that modern man suffers from a kind of poverty of the spirit, which stands in contrast to his scientific and technological abundance. We've learned to fly the air like birds. We've learned to swim the sea like fish. Yet we haven't learned how to walk the earth as brothers and sisters. Poverty of the spirit. Now, Martin Luther King Jr. Really rose to public prominence in the 60s, the 1960s. It's wild that we're closer to the 2060s than we are to the 1960s. As a student of history, that blows my mind how quickly time is passing. But the technological progress he mentions looks like ancient history to us now. We have now learned to fly the air like birds and swim the sea like fishes, and we could do so virtually. We have now conquered the virtual world, and through our various technological abundance, as Dr. King puts it, we are losing a lot of our humanity. So Dr. King recognized this in the 1960s, and we are now even further along down that road that we're so far mired in this poverty of the spirit that we're losing what it means to be human and walk the earth as brothers and sisters with respect for our fellow humans. So I think that it's important for us to recognize deficits. And there's a great deficit between who people presently are and who we're made to be. And to address this poverty of the spirit, you really have to stop being mired in your device, separated, isolated, and lonely. And instead, in the words of one of my favorite songs, followers, stop living for your screens. Go to the real world. Meet people, talk to people, not through a screen. And start addressing that poverty of the spirit, because it's creating a world that's even more cruel than it was in the 20th century. And that was a pretty cruel world. I'd like to see that poverty of the spirit addressed, because we are still falling far short, and more than happy to just move along and not just anchored to our TVs as we once were, but now we're anchored to our individual phones and mobile devices and tablets, and just, it's not a pleasant space to live in. And it's not one where we're truly walking the earth as brothers and sisters. So, quote of the day from Dr. King really hits close to home. And as a recommendation, just look up Spotify Followers. Great song. And it's time to get out in the real world again. And it's time to move beyond our technological abundance and be real. So that's the quote of the day, which brings us to world rankings, top 5. So the Lurz world rankings, 5 things that I thought were cool this past week. First of all, number 5, weddings. As I was at a wedding, I really enjoyed it. That's speaking of addressing the poverty of the spirit and being with real people and celebrating. These are occasions that are joyous. I haven't been to one in a while, and even if though I was busy with making sure my children didn't cause too much havoc, it was lovely. You're celebrating love, you're celebrating relationships, and seeing all the generations together under one roof in celebration, it really warms the heart and the soul. So it's nice to have everyone come together. And I really commend Sophia and Brandon, the bride and groom, for making sure that people did not have those phones out during the ceremony. Because you need to see those kind of things with your own eyes, to have that in the forever memories, instead of just worrying so much on the next photos for your Instagram or Snapchat story. So that was really cool. It was nice to be at a wedding and see all the generations celebrating together in real life. Those events occur too infrequently. So that was I really love weddings. Even watching people maybe have a few too many drinks, seeing them dancing all crazy. Yeah, that happens at every wedding. And that's, I guess, okay. Because it's real. And it was fun. It was a great celebration. And I really enjoy weddings. So that enters the Lurz World Rankings this week. Weddings at number 5. Which brings number 4, another similar occurrence, academic conferences. I went to one of those recently. And my wife has one upcoming on the schedule. And this re-enters the top Lurz World Rankings because it's really uplifting. And it enters it because I was at one in November, and I am presenting our findings from that conference, because we attended seminars both days to the rest of the faculty. Because it's important. We get so siloed in our individual institutions. And that's really a reflection of the isolation we have as individuals as well. But even in organizations, we're siloed in our individual schools, departments, etc. So when we get out into these academic conferences, we see what's happening. We see how other institutions work. We see how other people are working and the latest research. So it's really cool to all come together and just talk and spend a few days outside of the minute-to-minute inertia that just grinds us as we move through the school year in our respective organizations. So it's really nice to get out, to network, to see how other folks do things, to see threats appearing on the horizon, and see opportunities as well. So academic conferences, you are at number 4 this week on my top 5 list. Alongside weddings, real events, connecting with real people, and it really uplifts us in a way that I think is cool. So the more live events that we can get to, the more human we become, because it forces us off of our screens and into environments where we talk and interact with people in both groups and individual settings. Academic conferences, love it. I love conference season. Can't wait till I go on another one. It was a few years since I went my last one, and just reflecting on that one from November, just like, man, we need to do this more often. So I am not looking forward to being solo with the kids for a few days when my wife goes on to her next conference, but I'm excited for her to also get to do this kind of thing, because they're great. Love them. Get to see old colleagues I haven't seen in a while. Academic conferences, number 4. Number 3, I'm going to give a shout out to, air travel today is really rough. It's rarely good. But Delta Airlines is they get a shout out. They entered number 3 in my power rankings this week because they did such a good job flying my family to Austin and then back to Spokane again. Minimal delays, smooth travel experiences. They're really nice to our kids. Gate agents were outstanding. The app works better than other apps. I'm a rewards member with Delta along with Southwest, American, and United. Those are typically the ones that I fly, and Delta's the one I like the most. And they're number 1 for a reason, I think, because their app works the best. They're generally on time. It's just a smoother day when I'm with Delta versus some of those other carriers. So shout out to Delta. My wife left her phone on the plane on the way back, so we'd gotten all the way back. It's late at night. We're exhausted from the day of travel. My wife left her phone on that plane, and it was rough. But Delta was on top of it. They found the phone. They returned it to my wife. It took a while because you got to make sure that the plane is secure. You got to clean the entire thing, but she got her phone back, and that's saying something. That's hard to do in those kind of cases, but it was from the start to the end. Delta did a great job, so giving them a shout out, because when air travel is as bad as it is, it's nice when it works well. And it's not always easy flying long distances in wintry, uncertain weather. So Delta, number 3 this week. Positive thing about air travel. It's rare these days. Number 2, again, addressing that poverty of the spirit. Botanical gardens. I'm not really a big garden guy in terms of that's where I choose to spend my time, but I really was impressed with Austin's Botanical Garden. It wasn't even peak season. A lot of their exhibits and their sections weren't exactly in full bloom, given the fact that it's January. But even so, Austin Botanical Gardens was a really nice experience. It brought the girls there. They had a great time. Walked around in the hills. They had a little waterfall, a little prehistoric section. And I really was taken in by a little pavilion that was designed by a Japanese immigrant. Because the Japanese really are serious about their gardens. Similar to how the French and the English also really were back in the day. Also serious folks about their gardens, like as a place to meditate, to be in tune with nature, to just listen to the spirit. So in these big, loud events, like weddings and celebrations, and also busy events like these, and more like intellectually stimulating events like these academic conferences, the botanical garden, a garden environment and experience, spending a few hours just listening to nature, that's also important. So to address poverty of the spirit, you need both the one-on-one connections and the loud connections, and also the quiet internal connections. Again, the phone's away, you're just listening to see what and hear your own thoughts. That's an important experience too. So there are ways to address that poverty of the spirit mentioned by Dr. King. So number 2 on this list is that Botanical Gardens experience in Austin. Shout out to them. That was really cool. You see the city skyline in the distance as you're walking through these beautiful gardens, which are still beautiful even in the middle of January. And there might be under some ice and snow this week, which is crazy because last week it was 72 degrees. Texas weather, always a curveball. Number 1, Indiana football. I know that they've been number 1 before, And I was happy to see them win the national championship. So sorry to my father-in-law, who was a Miami grad and a big Miami fan. They had a good run. But the story, I mean, how could you root against Indiana? They've been the doormat for college football for generations. And in 2 years, Kurt Cignetti has turned that program around, brought it to the pinnacle of college football, and won a national championship. And he saw Mendoza run through the tackle of the Miami linebacker that knocked him out of the game on a controversial hit when he was the quarterback of California. And that really major moment where he, on 4th and 5, runs for a 12-yard touchdown. That was one of the final tackles that he broke. I mean, like the storylines. This Heisman Trophy winning quarterback, his mom's got MS, confined to a wheelchair, wasn't even offered a walk-on position at Miami. And he grew up less than a half hour from that stadium. And now in that stadium, wins a national championship by beating the Miami Hurricanes. I mean, you can't write a better storyline than that. So, really feel happy for Indiana. What a great season. As Kurt Cignetti said, it would make a heck of a movie. So, sorry for that my father-in-law didn't get to see his Hurricanes win a national championship, and he was really, really invested in that. But if you're going to lose to somebody, it's hard to pick a better team to lose to than Indiana, given that story and given the quality of the people that they have on that team. So congrats to Indiana, top in the college football world, and maybe, just maybe next season, my Florida Gators will finally not be terrible anymore. The blueprint is out there. It's possible. If it's possible at Indiana, it's possible anywhere with the right motivating coach who's organized, who can put the system in place and get the buy-in from the players, and then have quality folks like his quarterback Mendoza to lead them to the promised land. So Indiana, top. That leads us to the bottom 5 of the week. We're going to start with the gym in January. See, I understand. Like, I've been going to the gym pretty regularly since about 2017. I got back into it. I'm a former athlete myself. Like most middle-aged folks, I got out of the fitness routine for a long time and then got back into it. It's a regular part of my, and the more it is a regular part of my life, the better I feel and the better and the more healthy I am. So I just don't like the gym in January because then it's just so crowded. And I understand why people quit so easily under New Year's resolutions, because the gym in January is miserable. It makes me want to quit. I've been regularly going there since for almost a decade now. Because the locker room is packed. It's no fun changing with people like right next to you on both sides. Showers are always filled. It's hard to get equipment. It's just a miserable experience. So no wonder you want to quit. But hey, instead of starting in January, you should start in February. Use January to do your other health goals, like eating better, maybe drinking less. Do dry January, but then don't go to the gym until February, because then it'll be so much better and you'll stick with it because it's much more empty. January is a weird month. The bars are empty and the gym is full. And the full gym is just a miserable place. Too crowded, uncomfortable. Number 5 on my bottom 5 list this week. January gyms. Go in February. Be much better for everyone. Garbage day mystery. So bin days. In my neighborhood, it's they normally push garbage and recycling collection one day for holidays. But yet they didn't this week. And I suspected they wouldn't either. So it's like you're sort of like in this reliance on everyone to figure out on a block. Like you look around, it's like, is it both bins today? Is it one bin? There was a Bluey episode about that too. Because you don't really know. And it was late at night, the night before pickup time, and I had to just think: is it time? Is it time to? Is it going to be tomorrow? Because I don't see any other. Because I guess everyone's on that those MLK, so it's got to be pushed back. But I don't think anybody in the neighborhood has collection on a Monday, so it wasn't pushed. So Tuesday and Wednesday collections just went on schedule. So I put mine out, and in the morning everyone's was out, and the garbage truck did indeed come. But it's like the fact that it's a mystery. There needs to be a better way of communication than having to call a number or seek it. That should be, if you're a customer, that should be like automatic. Someone should contact you with like with a better way to determine a schedule than this bin mystery. Is it going to happen or not? Because if you're wrong, you don't get your garbage collected. If you're a family like I am, man, that's a that's a setback. So, garbage day mysteries, number 4 on the bottom 5. Number 3, the early standers on the airplane. There is a system. We're in a social contract here. Everyone wants to get off that plane. And it moves slower if there's one jackass charging up the aisle the second the plane lands. Wait in your seat, or at least next to your seat. Don't push your way into the aisle and push your way, this is even worse, push your way up the aisle. Unless you're specifically instructed by the flight attendants, because sometimes you are. Like in this case, I remember back around December time, the flight attendants noted that because we were delayed and there was a super tight connection, that anyone who had minutes to connect were invited to deboard first. So that's a separate occasion, but you're on time here, row by row. That's the only way to do it. Row by row, and if you run up, then that slows everything down. It can't be a bum rush to the front of the plane. Do it by row. That was annoying, because we had folks who are just rushing, and that gets the kids upset because they understand how you should deplane. Everyone takes their turn. If a 3-year-old knows how to deplane more than you, as a 40-something-year-old jackass, stay seated. And don't brush past kids to try to get off the plane just because you're in a rush. Everyone will get off faster if you get off one at a time. Because no one's connecting in Spokane. That was the final destination for everybody on that plane. It was really aggravating. And that hubbub, my kids get upset. My wife left her phone on the plane as a result. So yeah, those folks who are pushing their way to the front of the plane, bottom 5. Number 3 in the bottom 5. Number 2, this awful winter storm that's hitting everywhere in the country at once, it seems. A stretch running from Arizona all the way to Maine. Stay safe out there. Ice is terrible. I lived in Roanoke, Virginia for a number of years, and the ice storms are an issue. So the snow is an issue, the ice is a big issue too, and it's going to be a pretty rough event. So this horrific winter storm hitting us, the entire nation at once. Yeah, that's really rough. Number 2 in the bottom 5. And number 1, the fact that a huge winter storm is not number 1 really shows you how bad this number 1 is. And that's as a relatively new podcaster, I've been listening and looking at a lot of different podcasts. And then some random other ones just will enter my Facebook Reels because Facebook sees me looking at podcasts. And they say, well, you're a 40-something-year-old male and maybe you want to look at this. And they show me this, and it just like stumble across it. And it's just this garbage on these toxic so-called alpha males. The fact that this is like, they have I'm reading into it a little bit more and seeing what the effect that this is having. It's really messing up our teens and 20s, especially our male students in their teens and 20s, high school and college students, even not in middle school. They're watching this nonsense. It's garbage. It's garbage. They're pseudo alpha males, because that's not how true men act. You don't objectify women like that. You don't have that attitude and that sense of entitlement. My brother was a big fan of the show Californication, and Hank Moody says, like, actually the main character, his name is Hank Moody. He says, like, I fall in love with that. Like, women are beautiful. I fall in love with all women, whether it's for 10 minutes or 10 years. That's a better attitude to have than this feeling. It's like this feeling that you are entitled to whatever you want. And it degrades all the women around you. It's so incredibly toxic, some of this material out there. And I loved how King of the Hill's new season, Hank really sticks it to him. In a few of these later in that season, there's an arc where he just like absolutely annihilates this alpha male like influencer, because that's hiding weakness behind the bravado. Absolute weakness of the spirit. Talking about poverty of the spirit, those kind of folks out there who are doing that toxic, misogynist noise that's polluting the minds. Number one on the bad list this week. Number one, bottom of the bottom 5 in the power rankings, are those toxic podcasters and influencers who claim to be the pinnacles of maleness, but in reality are just empty, hollow shells. Joffrey Baratheon in their heart of hearts, who must stand up and say, I am the king! And Tywin Lannister tells him, anyone who must claim I am the king is no true king. You're not an alpha male. You're a hollow shell, and you suck. That is my statement to you, because that's not manhood. Any true man does not need to claim status in order to have that status. That's what I have to say about that. Gross. Gross, gross, gross. That's gross. Okay. Normally at this time we would have the Lurz World News. That's a few interesting stories that I think are pretty cool, but we haven't, I've been wanting to talk about forest for a while, so this is going to be the Forest Minute instead of the Lurz World News. So, for the Forest Minute, I'm going to head over here. And I'm going to put on my forest scarf. That's what we're going to do in this Forest Minute. See if I can find a way to get the logo displayed. There we go. Forest. Cool. Okay. So, talking about Nottingham Forest, they forced a goalless draw with league leaders Arsenal this past week, which was a big, that point was big. They frustrated that Arsenal team. Matt Sells, the goalkeeper, made a couple of incredible saves. I watched the second half of it in a plane ride back because Delta has the CPAC entertainment. Shout out to Delta. Anyways, awesome to see Forest earn a point against the league leaders when they're struggling. They're trying to stay out of the relegation zone. They're trying to stay in the Premier League for next season, and they're really struggling. Igor Jesus, their striker, he's undersized and he's overworked because they don't have any other healthy strikers. Chris Wood has been injured since October. They just loaned Calimundo, one of their new strikers from the year. They immediately loaned him back or loaned him to Frankfurt. So they don't have any healthy strikers up front, and now Jesus is hobbled by a knock, as they call them, and his status is uncertain for today's Europa League game against Braga. So Forest has been struggling, but they got a draw against Arsenal, which is a big point because every point matters when you're trying to avoid being relegated. So shout out to Sean Dyche's Forest lads for forcing a goalless draw. And hopefully, I want to see them get the kind of strikers that really would benefit Dyche's system, which are big, tall target forwards that you can, because they're getting balls into the box from the wings. Their wingers are doing a decent job of getting crosses in, like wingers like Caleb Hudson-Odoi and Mari Hutchinson. They're doing a decent job getting the crosses in, the service in, but Jesus is more of a like pressing forward who just hassles up his opponents as a good connection to midfield. But he's struggling against big physical Premier League center backs. So it'll be nice to see if some of those targets, like they're looking like it looks like they're going to get Lorenzo Luca from Napoli. He's 6'7". That would be a huge get. I mean, he's unproven, but they're looking at a loan deal that's looking like it could happen. Strand Larson from Wolves, another big, tall forward that if you put the ball in the box, they could head it in because Forest really needs some offense. So hoping that they can find some offense and hoping that they can at least get a draw against Braga today because it might be a Dan Ndoye up front, and he's not exactly that's not his natural position. He's not a striker. He's more of a winger, and he's been struggling lately too. Morgan Gibbs-White can't do it by himself, and he's more of an attacking midfielder. I don't know what they're going to do against Braga if Jesus can't go. But I'll be pulling for them, and hopefully I'll get a chance to watch at least the second half of the game, which will be occurring probably sometime before you watch this podcast. So you'll have to let me know in the comments section how'd they do. Because right now I told my buddy who's told one of my friends that the under is the better bet. Because I can see it going 0-0 or a 1-0 result either way. Because Forest will play defense, but I don't see the offense will be hard to come by with a hobbled Igor Jesus. That's what I got for the Forest Minute. Hoping for Lorenzo Luca, hoping for Strand Larson. Get them both. I would love to see Forest get both of those guys. That will give Jesus some backup. He's playing. No wonder he's hobbled. He's played nearly every minute of every league game and every game in Europe. Poor guy. He's a break. So that brings us after Forest Corner. Oh, one last thing in Forest Corner, which is, I think, the more interesting point. Forest fans are notoriously impatient. They were ready to run defensive midfielder Ibrahim Sangari out of town. The last 2 years, he's been getting nothing but grief. And he finally has come into form and is one of their best players this year. Really holds the midfield together and provides world-class midfielder Elliot Anderson more space to be his creative best. So having Sangari back from AFCON is huge, and that showed in that Arsenal game. I don't think they get a draw without Sangari, and the results stand for themselves since Sean Dyche was appointed manager at Forest. Ibrahim Sangari, when they've had him in the lineup, they've only lost twice. When they haven't had Sangari in the lineup, they've lost 6 times. Big difference. He really provides the glue to hold the defense together and provide some offensive spark on the other end as well. Turning into a world-class player, which leads this. That's one of the reasons why I'm not so eager to toss some of our more disappointing signings out so quickly. Because some of those folks just might need time and space in the system to grow and develop and become the stars that they're meant to be. So I'm more willing to give some time to those guys, folks like McAtee and Ndoye, who haven't done great thus far. Give them some time to develop. You never know if they're going to become studs, absolute studs like Ibrahim Sangari. So shout out to Sangari. You are my top 5 for sure on just the Forest list this week. Hopefully you do great in Europe today. Which brings me to the closing remarks. As I take off the Forest scarf and go back to my regular remarks. So, closing monologue. Addressing the poverty of the spirit. You need time with people. And you need time by yourself. And you need to shut out the noise that demands you to either be someone else, or to be a zombie that's just designed to scroll mindlessly until and just get all this junk in front of you so that people on those social media apps can sell you things. They keep you glued to your phone for a reason. Whether it's AI slop, toxic influencers, or just random noise that you're looking at that continues to degrade the poverty of the spirit and deepen you in that poverty, in that morass, so that you lose a little bit of your humanity, your ability to walk the earth as brothers and sisters. And it only deepens your social isolation and that spirit deficit that so many folks have. And I tried to show some of that in this podcast this week in ways to get out of that, to address that, to talk to people, whether it's at weddings, family events, barbecues, academic conferences, being with the people in positive places. It's a great thing. Trying to get something out of people, like some of these toxic pseudo alpha male influencers out there, that's a really negative thing. And that goes the opposite direction. That's worse than mindless scrolling. Being out there trying to exploit people in the name of alpha maleness. You're not an alpha male. That's not being a man. That's just pathetic. And it hurts me to see so many of my students falling down those pathways into thinking that this is a positive way to be a man in 2026. That's not a positive way to be a man in any era. No one should act like that. So, in order to address poverty of the spirit, you got to get out from behind your screen. And you have to get in positive places to meet and to talk and to be with people. And you need to be in positive places to be with yourself. Places like the gardens, nature, reflective spaces. And that's something that we really do need to address, because one of the prevailing problems in today's society is loneliness and isolation. And then those express themselves and manifest themselves in some really negative behavior. And here we are, almost 100 years since MLK. Not quite 100. Closer to 100 than to 0. Several decades, let's just say. And we still have not addressed that poverty deficit. That poverty of the spirit still plagues us, and might plague us even more. And the 60s were some very tough years for this country. So we need to get back to being good neighbors, to being good spouses, good partners, and being better people. To focus on ourselves and to focus on each other in positive manners. And to talk to people outside of these screens. So if you take anything from the podcast this week, listen to MLK and try to address that poverty of the spirit and that growing isolation in today's society. And on that note, I will end this podcast. And may all of your Thursdays be Lurzday Thursdays. See you next week.